Hi everyone, I'm Joy Rosa with Earthworks Acupuncture, and we're here today with my very special guest, Kammaleathahh Livingston of Sustainable Health Choices. Kammaleathahh has been a licensed massage therapist since 2007 and is a certified structural integration therapist. Welcome, Kammaleathahh.
Hello.
So if you could just introduce yourself a little bit, where you're from, where you're located, globally or regionally, and if you can, the indigenous land that you are currently located on.
Yeah. Well, I'm Kammaleathahh. I'm currently located on Shawnee and Cherokee land in what is known right now as Louisville, Kentucky, in the United States. I have lived here since 2011. I grew up here earlier in my life, but was born in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about your journey into health and mindfulness, and maybe integrate how sustainable health choices began?
Yeah. Um, I think I had the really good fortune of having parents that talked about healing and was exposed to different things from an early age. But it wasn't until my own experience of sexual trauma that really ignited the need for healing and to engage with myself on a deeper level. Um, and from that point, I wanted to understand the bridge between the physical and the spiritual.
Mhm.
And so I went to massage therapy school and studied some other modalities. And after school, I was employed by a massage company that I ended up quitting because they were racist
Mm.
and didn't want to participate in their business.
Mm.
And so Sustainable Health Choices actually came out of that. A good friend, well, we didn't know each other very well at the time, but a good friend now, Miriam Biber, approached me in opening a practice called Sustainable Health Choices. And the major premise was individual health is linked to community health. And
Yes,
how can we be cared for and liberated as a community if we don't have the resources and support to care for ourselves?
absolutely.
Yeah, so it was about offering work from that point of view.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so then personal things took me away from North Carolina, family stuff. My mom was dying, and I came back to Kentucky, and it was very much her passing that opened the door to meditation and mindfulness.
Mm.
I read a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Soga Rinpoche, and that is what brought me into this world of learning how to work with my own mind.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that your practice of self-care was integrated with healing arts and opening doors for your mindfulness. And do you feel like this has sustained you as an organizer and a bodywork or energy healer?
Absolutely. I mean, from my experience, it's multiple components that has really helped and supported me. You know, from a whole health perspective, it's multi-dimensional, many components that really support me. Um, in terms of body work, it's very physical. You
Mm.
know, it requires a lot of coarse physical energy as well as subtle energy. And really, I've had to learn a lot about how to interact in that process in a way that's creating a healing environment and not an environment of manipulation.
Right? That's so
Um,
important.
and I think that's like, that can be something that's not always taught because we are trained as providers to fix. There's
Yeah.
a problem, we have to fix it, and it's on us to fix it. And I really try to come at sessions every day and being clear of actually there's already wisdom and healing capacity within the person. I'm just a supporter, you know, in holding space and trying to create an environment where that can actually come out.
Yeah, I think that's important. That co-creative space that you are providing is important, so that not only to hold space for that person, but to also really, have a student teacher relationship with that person. Because I have felt, in my clinical experience as a student of acupuncture, that has often been the case. Like this is an exchange. It's not just a one-sided healing session. So I really admire that about your practice. So I'd like to ask you, in response, we're in this, you know, uncertain time, but in response to the pandemic of COVID-19, how are you and the clinic's business doing in Kentucky?
So I've shut down all operations.
Okay.
Um, uh, and all of the activity through Tip It Forward has had to be delayed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not sure how long this will go on. So there's a level of uncertainty that we're working with too. And in response, I think that right now I'm texting with people. If people reach out to me and they need support, we're creating some videos to help support people based on asking them, what would be good and needed at this time. Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about Tip It Forward and what that is and how it's been integrated into sustainable health choices? Because I think that right now it's such a wonderful model of business and economics that I think we could really expound upon in the midst of COVID-19 and also afterwards. So even though I hear you about it, kind of being put on pause right now, I just really think that it's, for as long as I've known you, it's just been such a solid idea. And I really want to uplift it with you here so that, we can start planting seeds of like newer economic models that are going to sustain
Yeah.
sustainable choices for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, Tip It Forward came out of sustainable health choices, quite literally because people who could not afford the work I was doing were finding me and asking me for support. And it always went a little bit something like this. I've felt that massage therapy could always help me. I have tremendous pain. I've never been able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I took the tips that people were giving to me and I put them into a fund to create access to people who couldn't afford that normal price. And it got to a point where it grew and I wasn't able to sustain it as an individual. And we started doing more workshops with other nonprofit organizations. And then we created a mobile health unit using a bus, and we've built a greater team. And it is all about just bringing care directly to people out of love, out of like service and respect. And the premise of Tip It Forward is very much those with privilege having the ability to expand generosity, to expand access to something that they themselves benefit from, because these services are not covered by medical insurance, conventional medicine right now. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I really love that you also mentioned love. I think a lot of people are not very accustomed to heart-centered and compassionate care like that is integrating something like the vibration of love. Where we talk a lot about in social justice movements. Sorry, that's my cat. Sid.
Oh, that's great.
um, I'm gonna open this window for him really quickly. Because that's what he wants.
Awesome.
There you go. So yeah, in movement work, we talk a lot about freedom as a constant struggle. And I've been talking with a lot of other people online as of late. And really, I think we're shifting out of that mindset of it being a struggle. Why not right? Like Adrienne Marie Brown's pleasure activism is one really good example. Bell Hooks' All About Love is another really wonderful example of things beyond contextualizing freedom as a struggle. And so amidst this storm, this pandemic, it's calling us to action as individuals and collectively. So in your opinion, can you think of anything in terms of like caring for yourself and how it relates to communal efforts? You've sort of touched upon it, but.
Yeah. I think what COVID-19 is doing is bringing us to a truth that always existed.
Yeah.
And demonstrating how interconnected we are.
Yes.
We are, and that prior, there was already a lot of trauma and a lot of loss and a lot of grief. And, it's trauma, that experience of trauma that can block us from who we are, from that kind of natural wellness, that natural love that exists within us. Mm-hmm. And if we're blocked from that, then it can be kind of jarring to connect with the whole world around that, right. And I feel that COVID-19 is, while I do not wish any suffering upon anyone, that I feel like it can be an opportunity to get in touch with that natural love and that natural wisdom within us, so that we can be stronger and really build on the connection that we have towards one another and to care for one another. Like it's time that we care about each other. Like it's now, and it's scary. There's a lot of uncertainty. I'm aware of people that I'm connected to in Kenya and China and Taiwan, in Europe and different countries in Europe. Am I going to be connected to them after this? So yeah, it just going back to the mindfulness practice, it very much has allowed me to work with those challenging, uncertainties that come up. I don't know if I've answered your question, but.
Yes, you really have. And I think it's just, it's nice to have these conversations with people who are ready to take those next steps, in a really heart-centered direction, both interpersonally and collectively. I think that's what the underpinnings of this channel are really about. So thank you for touching upon that and expanding upon that. So I was wondering, my cat really wants to meet you.
I would love to meet her.
Sid, come here. This is Sid.
Hey, Sid.
So we're wondering, who have your biggest influences been in terms of self-care and like slow fooding and mindfulness practices?
Yeah. Definitely Sogo Rinpoche, Tsoknyi Rinpoche, Dogo Kensei Rinpoche for sure. Ray Hatherton, who has recently passed away, wonderful naturopath and healer. My good friend, Rebecca, people that I've met along the way in terms of my own spiritual practice. Yeah, probably too many to name. Those are the big ones for me.
Yeah. And what ways are you providing care for yourself? It's a time of pause, I think, for a lot of people. And as you've mentioned, sustainable health choices as well as Tip It Forward is taking this pause. So I'm wondering what ways you're providing care for yourself, and if they're different in how you are providing for your patients.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's evolving. It's last week I felt very scattered, kind of all over the place, couldn't focus.
Very valid.
Lots of information coming in on all channels. And I also, in kind of a greater context for me personally, like I'm in the midst of a healing process
Yeah.
for me that I've been going through for the last 10, well, maybe arguably my whole life, but definitely for 10 years, that I'm coming out of, in a way. And so that requires more rest. I've had to accept that I need more rest. I'm not jumping out of bed immediately. I've been trying to get out in the sun and walk if I can. Doing movement practice that I have, thinking about just supporting my own immune system, taking, trying to boost on like vitamin A, C, D, and E. I'm a big lover of essential oils. So using a variety of oils.
What have you been using lately? I want to know, like, especially at nighttime. That's kind of my restless time.
Yeah. So we were using, do you know the product called On Guard?
Yeah.
It's cinnamon, wild orange, eucalyptus, and rosemary.
Yeah, okay.
But so we were running that last night, and I said, we have got to stop running this because it was keeping me awake. Like I could feel myself, waking up.
Energizing, yeah.
Yeah, very energizing. So really, I've just been sticking to lavender.
Nice.
Is just like a good standby for me.
True, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So mostly, I think the greatest thing that's helped me is working with my own emotions and being patient with myself.
Are you journaling? Are you writing? Are you recording yourself? Like, what are you doing to process those emotions?
It's more just mindfulness practice. It's not necessarily writing. Although those in my house, we are now talking about creating like a big sheet of paper where we document kind of our journey as a house, what's happening outside and what's happening inside for each of us. Yeah. Because it's rapidly changing day to day. So.
Yeah, I think that's similarly what I'm trying to do with this channel is because I live alone and I live in a city where my community, my home is not around me. And so it's been really important to connect with people back home and people like you, people who've been on this journey with me since I met you. So I really thank you for connecting with me today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I've missed you.
Yeah, I've missed you too. You made me cry on
camera. That's okay.
It's okay. It's okay right now. What advice would you give your patients or anybody that is just kind of now tuning into these ideas of not only your business, but sustainable health choices? Like, what advice would you give people regarding at-home care during this time of quarantine and mandated stay-at-homes?
Yeah. I think the big thing for me is progress, not perfection.
Yes.
Like I learned that from a massage teacher, and I think it's so easy to get stressed out if we're not doing enough for our health, and it's, not integrating all these components, and what do I do with all this time? Now people have a lot of time that they didn't have before. So learning how to be is a whole different experience because we're so geared to do. I would say my greatest advice is just do one step at a time. The thing that comes up clearly of you got okay, it's the pain foot, or I'm not sure where you lost me, but I think it was addressing one thing at a time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, not getting too ahead of ourselves.
Like if trying to make a grocery store or something.
Yeah. And I think that, not being scared to ask for help,
Mm-hmm. Very good.
reaching out to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this time, how are you providing healthcare in your area? And if so, what does that look like? Are you doing like telecommunication like other providers, or are you taking this time for rest?
It's a combination. I mean, as people have reached out to me, I have, of course, offered support and talked to them and offered suggestions on what they can do. And then when there's quiet, I take it as an opportunity for rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I have made it clear to people that they can reach out to me for support.
Yeah,
And so I just leave it up to them to ask for it when they need.
that's really nice. That's great. We did touch upon Tip It Forward, but I really do just think that it's such a wonderful business model that people can go forward and implement, because it's especially for body workers. I was reading an article in the New Yorker, and it was like 57 million Americans are self-employed, and
Mm,
we're all kind of wondering like, oh, what are we going to do next? And it really self-employed, even like working class and working poor, anybody in energy work or astrology, entertainment, or food industries. I think we can all kind of um, take from this kind of model, right? um, After this pandemic, during this pandemic, and after this pandemic, it just seems to me like a great way to continue mutual aid in our
mm,
communities at large, and like keep us ready, right? So we don't have to get ready, to just like keep us sustained and ready, and especially, Lord forbid, if we ever come into a crisis like this again in the future. I think that that's really important. So, um,
yeah.
if there's anything that you want to kind of touch upon again too about Tip It Forward, or um,
I think what I'm learning is that there's lots of healers that are trying to do this throughout the US, and it's hard, and that a lot of them are actually struggling or have closed.
mhm,
Um, and so I think it just takes a lot to create something like this. But I think once it's created, it has so much strength to it. So I see a lot of value in what does end up popping up in the US, maybe in this time, that we are stronger if we're connected together. Because there's just a gap in terms of understanding like whole health and holistic medicine.
yeah,
There's still a lot to learn, about Chinese medicine, acupuncture, that people don't, realize, haven't learned yet. There's a lot that we need to teach conventional medicine providers, the value that we bring to the table. Yeah, so there's just a lot of education that has to occur. So I'm so grateful that you're doing this, because that's part of that effort.
yeah.
Vital.
Thank you, and I thank you so much, because that is a really large part of this channel. To be a channel with other channels. For this kind of health and well-being. It's like mycology, study of fungus and specifically mushrooms, and how they're all interconnected. And I really feel like that's like what people power can do at this time, and has been able to do. And you are based in Kentucky, but you're also from the regional South, and I think that that's also where I was before I was here out in the West. But the South really does have these larger pockets of health disparities, and just from knowing you for all these years, like you were always kind of like an outlier, in these, really sustainable ways, like what you were, doing with slow fooding, and, making the mobile clinic, the mobile bus, and talking about things like Tip It Forward. I mean, those were very nuanced, I think, especially, for somebody living in the South. And I really just, wanted my hats off to you, because you've always kind of been at the forefront of that. And I think that those things are what people are really, trying to look for now, to really reroute and find another sense of well-being while we're making newer models, economic models that not only sustain us as a community in an economy, but also sustain um, the health models that we so desperately need. Which I'm talking about, like preventative care. I mean, this is like the largest pocket in healthcare that I have always seen, and Sid agrees.
Yes. I think that, you know, we each have a role to play, you know, and I think it's just important to hear what that is on a deep level.
Mhm.
Yeah. What gift do we bring to the table to offer,
Yes.
you know, to bring us together to
Yeah.
move through this? Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, really, like, integrity wins, like moving forward, especially, um, I'm thinking further along the line, but in, like, if I'm speaking in the future terms, in the wake of COVID-19, what kind of providers am I going to be looking for? I would like to be seeking providers that have healthy implementations of self-care and, a regimen
Mm,
for themselves, because it just makes our co-creative medicines so much stronger,
mm-hmm.
in terms of whether it's a virus or any kind of health issue.
Yeah. Yeah. That we walk our talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're not like professionals in this way and then we have this whole other, you know, way of being in this other way, but that we're really actually integrated. Like,
Yes.
what you see is what you get, you know. This is who I am as a practitioner, and this is also who I am as just a human being,
Yep. And
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 how I bring myself. Yeah.
exactly. And just to echo again, like, it's not perfection; it's practice, practice, practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. One thing that we hold up in Tip It Forward is that, you know, provider is not above patient.
Yes.
You
Oh.
know, we're
Yeah.
human beings. We're two human beings right now. We're having a conversation. I might have some knowledge that can be supportive, but there's all these other strengths that a patient brings to the table. And so it's really important to listen to that story and to hold up, because our healthcare system right now, it just like is very much do this, do this, do this. And it's looking at the person's weaknesses, I think, at the forefront, rather than the strength and power that someone has.
Yes.
So yeah.
I love
Anyway.
that. Thank you for bringing that home, and thank you for being on here with me today.
Yeah.
If you would like or are open to it, maybe we could have some more Zoom chat conferences, and maybe some education on mindfulness practices or breath work or something with you. Um,
Absolutely. I would love to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap this up here with you, but again, if you could just state your name, your business, and then I will link you and your contact info in the description box on the
Mhm.
YouTube.
I'm Kammaleathahh Livingston. I'm the owner of Sustainable Health Choices, and I am the director of Tip It Forward.
Thank you, Kammaleathah. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.